writing is important.
I do, and well, both you and I are writers.
It's true.
So I'm honored that you had asked me to talk about why writing is important, or even care about my thoughts on why writing is important.
I really do.
I'm much more accomplished writer than I am at this point. But and also I knew that you would know that I just talked about some ridiculous bullshit about how our minds are being fought over by these giant dragons of media, and the only way to fight back against them are by getting your own writing out there and cutting them off at the knees with your own word swords or something like that. So I really appreciate that you took the risk to ask me,
I think that was
knowing that I was going to say that ridiculous crap.
It paid off. I didn't know you were going to say that.
Oh, well, surprise!
Another surprise is that we have an exciting writer who's coming up here to read some words that he wrote down ahead of time. But now he's going to say them aloud to you. So please join me in welcoming Arnold.
Now keep clapping, please.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very shy. And I know what you're thinking. I'm going to ask you to do an applause so I don't feel shy. That does not work. I'm very nervous. I do not like loud noises. Stop laughing! Alright, so they told me to write something, and the thing said I was going to be in a church. So I thought it was appropriate that I write something called Dick Stuff. When I was in elementary school, me and the guys didn't know what exactly sex really was. We didn't even know what girls had. At one point, one of my friends thought girls had penises, like guys. And he dreamed that he'd meet a girl with a dick so huge that it would drag on the floor behind her. Me, I thought girls had dicks as well, but instead of normal dicks, they had points with circles around them, like in the Jetsons. And my dick would touch the tip of her tiny dick, and lights would happen, and she'd be pregnant. When you're in school, sexual education is taught kind of wonky like that. They teach you that sperm is a giant egg on a shoestring and sex involves holes on women that you've never seen before. And lastly, they tell you that testicles drop instead of grow in size. So, the moment we all have when we're discovering our bodies naturally is unique for all of us. For me, it took getting locked out of my home. I was a latchkey kid, and for those unaware or uninitiated of what that means, I was the kid who had his house keys around his neck. I came home to an empty home where Child Protective Services would say I was abandoned. I'd say I was given the freedom to do whatever the hell I want. Home alone every day meant Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, while in my underwear eating chips was a thing. And even without a key, my mom's house wasn't well put together, so I could raise the windows up and sometimes break into my own home if I lost my key. But this time I lost a key and there wasn't any getting back into the house. So I went across the street to maybe stay with a neighbor and wait for my mom to come home. I knocked on the neighbor's door, and my neighbor's son opens the door and peeks outside. He was topless. And I didn't think anything of it. I got used to the guys from the South walking around shirtless all the time. Topless boys was sort of the opposite to the private school suburbs I was kind of used to. But I digress. This topless boy let me in his home. I sat on his couch and called my mom. He asked me if I wanted anything to eat. I told him, maybe not. He sat across from me and the other couch and turned on the television, and Lizzie McGuire was on. I took that as a signal to start on my homework. But the scene changes when my neighbor's son presses play on the VHS player. Suddenly I'm watching my first porno with my neighbor, and I've forgotten all of my homework. that whole women have? My neighbor's son, the pizza guy in the video, and I learned together where this woman's hole was. So the pizza guy pulls out his pizza, but he made a mistake, and his penis was inside the box. Before I could express my concern for the hapless pizza guy's penis and the hot pizza, I heard a noise coming from across the room. A weird squeaking sound that wasn't coming from the TV. It was coming from his couch. My neighbor was stripped down to just Nike socks and began masturbating right there to the video in progress. I didn't want to be rude, so I ignored the man and continued to watch the adventures of the frisky woman and the clumsy pizza guy. But even that was ruined when my neighbor's son stood up, walked in front of the TV, and picked up a small trash can. I usually tell someone this rude that they were blocking my view of the video. But a man wild enough to touch himself in public probably isn't too bothered by the idea that his erection is blocking the action on the screen. So he takes the trash can to the middle of the floor and continues playing with himself. Now, I'm looking at him wondering, what's the purpose of rubbing your penis on top of a trash can? Then it happens. Sploosh. He starts spitting out in places I didn't know people could spit. And I knew exactly what it was, and it wasn't an egg attached to a shoestring. It looked more like whiteout. And seeing all I needed to see, I packed my things up silently and walked to the door. He asked where I was going. I told him that I heard my mom calling me from across the street. He let me go, but I was confused. How could rubbing one's penis make you spit from there? I had to find out. So, after much thought and study, I turned on Cinemax. It was 2002, so if you had basic cable, the movie channels were scrambled, but you could still make out a titty or two. So one night, I turned on Cinemax and got under the sheets and concentrated on the images that flickered every now and again. And I went pumping away. After a time that felt like forever, it was happening. I was becoming a man. Do people say that? Become a man? I know some people say they become a woman, but did I become a man? Well, I certainly did come, but I doubt that I was becoming of a man at all. So I ran into the bathroom frantically because I had never had anything but pee come out of my body, and this was much worse than even that. And what made things worse, I had a trail of my own shame following me to the bathroom. And I left that door wide open. And what's immediately across from the bathroom door, you might wonder? My mom's room. A room with absolutely no doors closed at any time. Well, the sensation stopped, and I cleaned up my bedroom and bathroom floor. I covered it up so fast I'd make the LAPD jealous. But at age 12, I learned a lot about my body. A whole lot.